I put all of these in the complete opposite order. What's next? Oh, hold on.
Next, we're going to have our discussion. This is more of a discussion topic than an educational topic this week. And it may or may not be something you guys do if you DM your home games. I did it for you guys way back. I'm sure you remember, Paul.
I do, way back in the day.
Way back.
So, and we kind of had a unique experience when we started playing as well. So, for those of you that have been with us the entire time and watched episode 0, we kind of got to know us a little bit and how we got into D&D. But Tilly's played for ages, played since high school. I didn't, even though he asked me to play a bunch of time. I wish that I had. Now looking back at it, obviously now doing this, and he wanted to step into the role of DMing. And he wanted to, but doing that is intimidating in any stretch of it at all, even if it's with friends or with experienced people or new people or whatever. And I certainly have appreciation for that. So he approached me and said he really wanted to do it, and I said, sure, yeah, I'll do it with you, even if it's just the two of us or whatever. And not like that.
I just checked. I don't see my Tilly mom, Tilly dad, and the people in chat anymore. So
so we can we can get all right. We can get. We'll hold that off until the after hours. How's that?
Listen, I'm a grown man. I can innuendo around my parents if I want.
Fair enough. I don't feel comfortable doing that around Mr. and Mrs. Tilly. All right. So he asked me to. If you wanted to, or I can't remember if I offered or you asked or whatever, but I said, yeah, sure, I'll be a new player if you're going to be a new DM, and then we grew our table around that, and one of the first things that he handed out was this, what we're gonna talk about, and as a bunch of new players, and as a new DM, it got all of us on the same page. Pardon the pun, because it is a page. So.
It is literally a page.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you never picked up from that, we're going to talk about a pre-campaign handout. Certainly not a mandatory thing, but I think, like Paul just said, it's very helpful to get everybody on the same page really quick. The overarching theme of this whole thing is in D&D, communication is key. And that doesn't just mean telling you what you're going to do on your turn. That means checking in with players in the DM to make sure everybody's okay with what's happening at the table. And this kind of document, if you're like my quality control people out there like myself, kind of gets everybody on the same page and something we can reference back to. It's certainly something that can be changed. Paul has up on the screen there. This is my first one. It's by no means perfect.
And we can make this available in the Discord too if you want. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. We can put that up there. I mean, something to people to go by. Like I said, by no means is this the be all end all campaign pre-handout thing. I mean, this was 3 years ago, first attempt. It's pretty good. I had help from the internet. But I guess first thing I should say is try to keep it to a page. No one likes to read, as no one reads the player's handbook. People have short attention spans. Keep it bullet point, keep it short, keep page tops. I've seen some really nice ones out there when I was doing the research for this that are 5-6 pages long with art and stuff. I mean, that's helpful if you have the ability to do that. But I don't know how necessary it is. I feel like a page is nice.
Right. So what would you cover in something like this? What are the important things you would cover?
So the number one important thing to me is to talk about on or off limit content.
Mm-hmm.
What rating is your game going to be? Is it going to be a PG game? Is it going to be an R game? Are we okay with torture? Are we okay with, sexual themes? Yeah,
and
everybody needs to be on board with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we've had a conversation about this with somebody that we know that reached out to us once we started doing this, and they run a bunch of horror games. And again, I think we should have just called this like Spooktober edition. Spooktober. But
I thought we're going to do Spooktober next week.
We will. Spoiler. So he runs a bunch of horror style games, and everybody has different limits for that kind of stuff. If there's certain things that you really don't like, then obviously that has to be discussed beforehand. And now we are actually going to, we didn't do this already, I don't think, but we were talking about doing it for another education or topic or anything like that, was the two styles, the two things, tools that he brought up. I think one of them was called cats or something, that will let you basically set your limits before these games and see what's okay, so that everybody's on the same page. But we'll
for sure.
We'll do that in a future episode.
Yeah, and this one, for this document, it's more about, because obviously the DM is making it. This is more what the DM is comfortable with. Obviously, the players need to have input on that as well. But, as a ground rule, it's a good space to start, to be like, the DM's not okay role playing, sex. So that's off the table right off the hop. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that just starts the discussion, and it's a very, very important discussion at D&D. Next, I don't think I talked about this in mine, but you talk about table behavior. Like, DMs put a lot of effort into their games. We're all there to have fun, but if everyone's goofing off on their phones, just generally screwing around and not paying attention to the game, that can be a bit disheartening. So they might ask, hey guys, we're only playing for 2 hours a week. Can you focus up a little bit? Yeah, no, definitely. But it could also be talking about stuff like, hey, someone got to bring me snacks.
And whoever brings you snacks gets an inspiration die.
Inspiration or something. Yeah, I mean, that's something you can lay out in the document here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Other things like, is PvP allowed in your game? Most tables kind of frown on PvP, and that doesn't just mean combat. I mean, that also means, is pickpocketing your friends okay in the middle of a game, Stevie B?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And that's something to talk about up front, because tables might love that. That might be they might thrive on that. Others might hate it. You don't know until you talk. Other things too, like, is character death on the table. I mean, some people, they get very attached to their characters they create. They don't want them to die. So you can say, in this game, the likelihood of character death is high. So don't make something you're going to get attached to. Yeah. Lay that out there up front. Stuff as well. And now you get into stuff like, when you're thinking about what characters are going to play, it's, is there anything in your world that's going to change how they might do that? Is there any laws in the world you make that are off limit? Like, is necromancy illegal?
No. Hashtag
whether it's evil or not, is it illegal? Like, if you walk into town with a zombie, are you going to get arrested? I mean, that could be, it could be fun, but it could be a bummer too. Yeah. Or for example, is there any changes to, like, is it a homebrew setting versus a standard one like the Sword Coast? So, like, are dwarves totally different than your stereotypical dwarves? Matt Koval game, dwarves are basically tiny Klingons that used to be slavers. So no one likes dwarves. If you role play a dwarf in Matt Koval's game, the dwarf, and you're a dwarf, like, you're gonna have a bad time because you're walking into town, everyone's not gonna like you. Right.
Yeah, and what I mean? And it's cool because that was something that I was, again, I've talked about this before, that I've struggled to grasp the rules from within that we play, or the rules that we play within. Oh my God, the tongue's not working tonight. So when I talked about wanting to do play a necromancer, funny enough, given that the fact that we're talking about it right now and how a lot of this Team Necro stuff came up, was Tilly told me that necromancy is illegal in this setting. It's you like, a lot of people would not be happy to see you walking around with a skeleton in front of you. So, like, to me, that was really, I didn't want it to be outlawed right away, because I was like, I still want to do it, but now I'm challenged to try and figure out how I would do it. So, like, do I wear, every time I go into a shop, do I buy a bunch of, like, oils and perfumes and everything to cover up the stench of death that follows me around? Smart. Do I, always get, different pigments and everything for makeup on my skin, so that I don't have that, like, pale kind of a deathly look that necromancers have after a while? Do I have a rule that I can't use any sort of raise undead spells or anything like that, or anything really obviously necromancy spells around other people other than my party? How does my party react to it? Like, all these things are, like, questions of, like, okay, how do I answer that? And then you sit down and you think about it, and it just gives you a way better, a more in-depth character. And I had a lot of fun going through a lot of those a lot of those questions as well, right?
Right, and you can see how this document already. Imagine now you show up to your session 0, your session 1 to make your character, and all of a sudden I drop, hey, by the way, necromancy is illegal, and now you have to kind of figure all that out on the spot. I mean, this gives you a bit of time up front for your players to kind of have those thoughts before they come to the table. So you can do what y'all like, which is playing D&D.
Yeah, totally.
And then that note too, like that necromancer that you ran in a one shot, that was a homebrew rule. So something to put in this document as well. Is homebrew okay? Can you go to the D&D wiki, which is awful in a way, but can you use that? Is that okay? Stuff like, are we going to use optional rules like flanking or feats, or are we going to use XP versus milestone? Nat 20s, Nat 1s being automatic successes even on skill checks, which pisses everybody on the internet off.
Yeah.
But that's all very valid stuff that should go in this document ahead of time, so people know what kind of game they're agreeing to come play at. Definitely.
Yeah. No, I completely agreed. And the this, obviously I've just scrolled down there a little bit as well. I think the setting's really important.
Sure.
Giving people I guess an idea of the land that they live in. When I did my one shot, I did, this is the region and this is the god that's praised in the land and worshipped in the land. So if you guys want to make a character that praises that god, well then, here's your opportunity to do that. If you want to be at odds with that god, well, this is their nemesis. The tongue ties keep going. Their nemesis and everything, right? So it's kind of important to lay out that setting so that people know where they're playing, because all of these things are prompts for players to be able to create characters that have depth to them and have a little bit of role play prompts and abilities. So
and this also gives them a hook too. I mean, at the end there, I kind of explain how the game's going to start. So that might give you some hints too on, like, is this going to be a combat heavy game or a role play heavy game? Are we going to spend the whole time in court?
Yeah.
I mean court of law, but like a king's or queen's court, and doing RP stuff. I mean, or are we going to be in combat the whole time? And if you make a RP character, you're just not going to have much fun, are you?
No, not at all. And that's fine. I mean, whatever you guys want to do, whatever your DM wants to do, whatever your players want to do, it's okay. It's fine. It's acceptable. It's a great part about D&D, especially 5e. One of the great parts about this this handout, which I didn't realize until we looked at it tonight, is we got introduced to one of our in-game favorite characters.
What?
For those of you that are in chat right now, you might find their name on the page. But it's incredibly important. It's it's setting the stage for the story to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's it in a nutshell. Campaign handout. It's like, there's a lot of stuff you can put in here. You don't necessarily need all of it. Depends on what kind of game you're going to run, but it kind of forces you as a DM to put some thought into some questions that maybe you didn't. You might have the answers to, but you didn't really think about them, to put them on paper to tell other people.
Yes.
Up front.
Yeah. And then one thing I've noticed about a lot of things in work, in life, in pleasure and everything is put it on paper. Don't just keep it in your head, right? Once it's on paper, you can present it to other people. You can keep yourself organized and on the right path or whatever. Mm-hmm. But putting it on paper is usually helpful. So, cool. Yeah. I'm disappointed nobody in chat called out our favorite character in game.
That's not
right. That's the end of our discussion. Are we done?
That's it, man. We're done. Campaign handout in a nutshell.
Cool.
All I know is with my computer going and this beer, it is warm in here.
Is it?
Oh, I'm cooked.